Hi, my name is Karina. What do you consider to be the longest time one should go with having a vacancy? And along with that, in your experience, what have been the best methods in filling vacancies, in posting, advertising? What have been the best methods that you think have been to fill them? Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. So first, before I dive into this, I want to point out we have a great video that I would love for all of you to go check out on our YouTube channel. It is called six tips for dealing with vacancies in your rental property. 6 tips for dealing with vacancies in your rental property. So it's a really informative video. And I just want to say, as I kind of go through these ideas here with you, Karina, number one, it's normal. You must take into account that you're going to have vacancies in your rental properties. Okay, this is part of the process. Absolutely, your properties are not going to be 100% rented 100% of the time, especially if you're a large property owner that has 100 unit commercial properties. There's constant tenant turnover in those large. Think about it like a Manhattan, high-rise apartment building. It's never 100% occupied. It's always going to have vacancies, right? People moving in, people moving out. That's how it happens. Our goal is, of course, to limit that. So we work with great property management teams, number one, and then we want to take our time to find the right tenant in the property. So I would much rather have a property management company take a month or 2 months going through different potential tenants that are signing up and filling out applications. I want them to be picky about this, okay? And then that way we can find a tenant that's a great fit, that's a great match, that wants to be in that school district because they want their children to grow up in that school district. Great. Let's find a great match where that tenant's going to stay a long time. So rather than just trying to cram a tenant into the property, trying to massage it, you're like, well, this tenant's not the greatest, but hey, it's been vacant for 3 weeks. Let's just shove this tenant in there. Well, guess what? Then after 3 months, when that tenant was flaky, then now you got to fill it again. You got to go through the whole process again, right? And now you might have to clean up the property, you might have to shampoo the carpet, do different things like that. So don't rush on that. You need to be patient. Again, it's normal, but patience is absolutely key. Sometimes a turnover means better, higher paying tenants that will stay longer. So maybe you had a tenant in there that was kind of a problem or has been there for a few years, and so the rent is not commensurate with the neighborhood anymore. Maybe the rent was much lower because you put them in there 5 years ago. Well, rents have gone up significantly. It's an opportunity now to increase profits on that property. So, don't be too upset if you have a tenant turnover in the property. I can honestly say in all of the properties that I own, every time we've had a tenant turnover year to year or so, we've been able to increase rents upon that tenant turnover. Now, yes, we have to do some paint touch up and things like that, but then I want our tenant to stay in that property long term. So we're going to do those things. We're going to make the property look great for that next tenant to move in, and then increase those rents. As far as advertising goes, that's where your property manager is going to be one of the things you want to find out about when you're interviewing property management teams, right? We work with great property management teams at Morris Invest, and we want to ask them those questions. How do you communicate with your tenant? What screening process do you go through? How are you advertising for the properties? Do you put up yard signs? Do you advertise on Craigslist, other property software, other property rental websites? What is the type of foot traffic that you have coming into the office? How do you go through that process? So all very important questions to ask prospective property managers. And then you need to really trust that team, right? You're hiring them to do a job, then you've got to let them do their job. Now, they may say, because look, they only make money if they fill the property with a tenant, right? They're not making money off of a vacant property. So they want that property to be rented, right? So again, it's an incentive for them to get it rented. But also if they're taking their time, that means that they're also a good property management company. They're taking their time, they're being thorough. They know they don't want to just shove a tenant in that property, okay? Because that could be problems later. They want a tenant that's going to stay a long time. Very, very important. So, don't be afraid to check in with your property management company, but, let them do their job. You hired them for a reason. You vetted them. We have our whole video series here, how we look for property management teams. You can actually watch a video. We interviewed one of our own property management teams in Texas. So you can see what they do, how they go through that whole process, and you can get a real sense of what a great property management team should look like. And I think it'll really help inform you as you're going through that interviewing process of finding prospective property management teams. And then just be prepared. Another thing to do is like be prepared for a vacancy. Okay, make sure you have a little bit in reserves. Make sure you are able to cover those 1 to 2 to 3 months of vacancy if you have to. And also, some rental insurance companies will also provide missed rent as a rental insurance. So if you've got insurance on the property, there's different rental insurance when you have on your property. You can say maybe missed rent or there's a gap in the rent, and that'll be covered under insurance as well. So things to talk about with your insurance agent. If you want to pay maybe a little bit more on your insurance coverage per month, that'll cover you in case there's a few months of missed rent while you're placing a new tenant in the property. Another thing is I want you to think long term, because I was just having this conversation with an investor the other day. I always like to think bigger. Because I said, someone was in my car and was asking like, hey, I think it was my little girl. And she was like, well, what if you're nervous? What if you're nervous if you're going to do this thing? And I said, well, and I was thinking about my example of being a real estate investor for the first time, which is if you're an investor for the first time and you have one property, you're probably scared, right? You're probably, oh my God, a vacancy? That's terrifying, right? What else is terrifying? Maybe a fire in the property? Like all of those things are terrifying. Now I want you to picture as if you have 50 of those rental properties, 50 properties. Would you be upset about a vacancy in one of your 50 properties? No, it's part of the process. So just think long-term, think bigger, think as if you've grown up a little bit more mature in that process. So again, there's times will vary, Karina, from a couple of weeks to finding a new tenant to a couple of months to finding the right tenant. There is no secret sauce. The secret sauce only is you have a great property management team that's going to be diligent and do their job. So there's no real, I've had properties fill up in 2 weeks. I had a property one time in Michigan take me 3 months, but then that tenant ended up staying 5 years. So again, just take your time and be patient. Again, go to our website, morrisinvest.com. And if you want to leave us a voicemail question while you're there, there's a microphone icon on the right-hand side of the screen. Click that and leave us a 30-second voicemail, and we will answer it here on this show. Now, I don't want you to be scared about what's going to happen in this economy, okay? Because again, as real estate investors, I've been warning you for years, right? Government currency is never a good investment. So if you've got your money in a 401k, you've got your money tied to the US dollar in some way, I've been warning you for years that it's not a smart investment. Every government currency in world history has collapsed, and so too will the US dollar. It's $30 trillion in debt. It's not tied to anything but debt. The US dollar is not tied to gold. It's tied to debt, okay? And so think about things that have lasted for thousands of years, have survived famines, have survived all manner of collapses. Real estate, okay? Real estate, real estate, real estate. So be smart. Make sure your money is working for you and protect your family. I believe real estate investing is the number one way to build wealth and to protect your wealth. We'll see you next time, everyone.